Hey everyone, what's up? Today we're going to talk about how to properly disassemble and assemble the Gaahleri Airbrush. You might be wondering, why should I take apart the airbrush? Well, it's because after using an airbrush for a while, it's inevitable that the paint will get clogged up. And in severe cases, it might become impossible to spray. That's when you need to take apart the airbrush and give it a deep cleaning. Plus, once you learn how to disassemble and assemble the airbrush, you will have a better understanding of its structure and the principles of spraying. Trust me, it will be super helpful. You will be able to easily solve any little issues you encounter during use or perform some simple routine maintenance to extend the airbrush's lifespan. Alright folks, on my desk I've got the GHD-39, GHPM-65 and GHAC-98 airbrushes. Since their structures are quite similar, we will use one of them to demonstrate how to disassemble and assemble. I will point out any differences along the way. Of course, in your everyday use, even for deep cleaning, you don't need to fully disassemble the airbrush. The disassembly and assembly we're about to do are purely for demonstration purposes. So let's get started. This is the preset fluid control knob, used to limit the maximum paint flow. Just keep rotating it until it comes off. Rotate and remove the handle. This is the needle checking nut, used to secure the needle. We will loosen it and set it aside. Be careful as this part is small and easy to misplace. Next, you can gently pull the needle backward. Take your time and be careful when handling it because the tip of the needle is very sharp. Avoid any injuries or accidental contact with the needle. Rotate and remove the spring case. Pull back to remove the spring and needle checking guide. Please note that some airbrushes like the GHAD-39 have a modular design. We will explain the differences between these two designs in a future video. Lift upward to remove the main lever. Open the lid and remove the cup. Some airbrushes, such as the GHPM-65, have an integrated cup design that is not detachable. Remove the air cap. Take off the nozzle cap. Sometimes, with the quick drop-in structure, you may find that the nozzle separates and remains inside the nozzle cap. This ACE Series 98D airbrush features Gaahlerie's unique 8MAC, 8 micro air channel nozzle for enhanced atomization. These 8 small holes allow the air to disperse evenly into 8 streams, creating a uniform air pattern around the nozzle and ensuring precise paint application. This design requires high precision in manufacturing. For nozzles with a quick drop-in design, you can simply and easily remove them like this. For some airbrushes like the GHPM-65, the nozzle is fixed with a threaded structure. In this case, you can use the small wrench included in the package to gently loosen the nozzle. Please be careful to rotate it in the correct direction to avoid damage. Nozzles are very small, so be sure not to drop them on the floor, because finding small things that have fallen on the floor is usually quite challenging. Removing this valve may require some force, so you can use a tool to assist you. Alright, at this point, the disassembly of the airbrush is nearly complete, and you can see that there are quite a lot of components that make up an airbrush. If you need to disassemble the valve or the needle guide inside the body, You wouldn't require specialized tools. In regular use of the airbrush, you rarely need to disassemble these two components unless the airbrush is experiencing a malfunction. So we won't demonstrate it today. Now, let's start putting them back together. Let's put the valve back in place and tighten it up. Grab the nozzle and make sure the white sealing ring is in good shape and free from any big chunks of dust. You can also put the nozzle inside the nozzle cap before we install them together. Oh, by the way, sometimes when you're giving your airbrush a good cleaning, you might find that the needle is already inside before you put the nozzle back on. Just pull the needle back a bit and then fit the nozzle snugly in place. When it comes to screwing in the threaded nozzle, you will need a wrench. We've made some upgrades to the threaded nozzle design for this GHPM-65. No more fussing with sealing rings. Plus, it's sturdier now, so you don't have to worry about it snapping like a twig. Just remember, don't go all hell on it. Just give it a gentle tightening until it feels secure. Next, let's install the main lever. Pay attention to its orientation. The side with the notch should face towards the back of the airbrush. Adjust the main lever to a vertical position, align it with the small hole and insert it. Give it a few presses, and if it bounces back smoothly, it means you've installed it correctly. Attach the needle checking guide. If it's a modular design, install this part first. Don't forget to put the spring back in place. Use the spring case to secure the assembly. I suggest rotating it in partway for now. No need to tighten it just yet. I will explain you why in a moment. If your airbrush has a modular needle checking guide, like the GHAD-39, take a moment to determine the correct orientation of its components. When installing it, you will need to pull the needle checking guide backward. Place it in the gap between the needle checking guide and the main lever, and adjust it slightly. We know that installing this part for the first time requires some patience. But don't worry, you rarely need to disassemble and assemble this component in your everyday use. Pull the trigger backward to test if it moves smoothly. Now, let's put the needle back in place. Before doing so, ensure that the nozzle and nozzle cap are correctly installed and tightened. Once again, a reminder, the needle tip is very sharp, so be careful during installation. Gently push the needle all the way in. Also, check if the needle is visible through the air cap. Tighten the needle checking nut. Continue tightening the spring case. Once it's fully tightened, you will experience the maximum resistance when pulling the main lever backward. If you find that your fingers get fatigued after prolonged use, you can try loosening the spring case slightly to make it easier to pull the main lever. Attach the handle and control knob back in place. Finally, put the gravity fluid cap and lid back on. And there you have it! Your airbrush is now reassembled and ready to go. If you have any questions or want to learn about other airbrush-related topics, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. We will respond to you promptly and address your questions in future Q&A episodes. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Until then, take care